Hi everyone, welcome back to the Bible Project podcast. We're in a new section of scripture today. We're beginning in chapter 9, looking at the first half of chapter 9 in fact, and the question I'd like us to consider this morning is, how valuable is life? Now, I know that sounds like a philosophical question, but there's a whole lot of practical ramification to any answer that you formulate to that question. At one end of the spectrum, some religions teach that all life is sacred and that all humans and even animals have value. Some religious individuals will try and live their life without killing anything, even mosquitoes. And at the other end of the spectrum, there are those who hold such extreme views that they seem to value no life at all, that they will think nothing of killing such people, even innocent people who don't share their religious or worldview. There are terrorists out there who will blow up and shoot innocent people just to make their point. So just how valuable is a human life? And maybe we should throw in the mix how valuable is an animal life. It seems to me that in the UK today there is no consensus on this subject, just a lot of confusion. Let me illustrate. The majority of people in this country believe in abortion. Apparently around half of those very same people would say that they want the right to terminate life when people are very sick, elderly or near death. Within the group of people who believe in euthanasia in the UK, over 20% of them believe that it should be allowed for any person who is tired of living. I quote. In places like Europe, Holland, Switzerland and Belgium, the percentage of the population that believe in euthanasia in some form rises to over 80%. Interestingly, it's been demonstrated that the vast majority of those very same people would say they don't believe the government or anybody else should have the right to execute criminals. Now let me be clear, as a Christian I personally do not believe in capital punishment, and I believe that I can argue that position conclusively from the teaching of the New Testament. But that is beyond the scope of what I'm talking about today. The point I'm trying to make is just about the confusion and the mixed messages that fly around when we consider what is the value of life. I think it's really interesting that in this country most people who would argue for the right to euthanize elderly or sick people would at the same time be against abortion and capital punishment. It seems confusing to me to be advocating for the killing of an unborn child, but then to be strongly against killing those who have been found guilty of a serious crime. Please understand, I'm not arguing for the death penalty. I'm just saying that the views that people held are often contradictory and confusing. And I just believe that when approaching these matters, we really need to think them through from a biblical framework, because there are some profound practical, religious and even political ramifications to the position we take on these matters. To add to the confusion, when you speak to millennials and younger, many of the younger people in society who believe in abortion in very high numbers and euthanasia will at the same time advocate for animal rights and are strongly against the killing of animals. It seems to me an illogical position to think it's okay to kill an elderly person because they feel old and weary, but it's not okay to kill a farm animal. Another scenario which demonstrates just how confusing and convoluted this issue has become today. Today, in a hospital in the UK, a premature baby can be born at 24 weeks and the hospital and the staff will battle with all their resources to help keep that baby alive, to help that baby survive, while at the same time, in the same hospital in another part of the building, a baby up to 24 weeks may well be being terminated. That's confusing, isn't it? So I say this subject needs to be thought through biblically. What is the value of a human life? What is the value of an animal life? Is all life sacred? Is the most logical position to take is one which says we don't kill any life at all, because at least that has some consistency to that view. Should all killing be considered wrong? Should we not practice any kind of killing, including abortion, capital punishment, killing animals for food, and consider all life to be sacred? If not, how do we make the distinction? How do you make the distinction, and where do you draw the line? How valuable is a human life? Thankfully, God himself will clarify that position for us, and he does so just after the time he decided to save a boat full of people. That's what I want to look at and hopefully get some clarity to help us to think through the subject and find the keys. So what does the Bible say about the value of life? Well, I believe we're going to find out the answer to that as we study together over these next few podcasts. Okay everyone, that's it for this time. Thank you for joining me. Now the place to go to connect to this and any other ministries I'm involved in is the podcast notes section of the audio podcast on the Buzzsprout website, or by looking in the episode notes section on whatever app provider you use. Within that you'll not only find the transcript of each talk, but you'll also find links to all the ministries and the way to connect with us, including the Facebook page, my YouTube channel, and links both to this, the daily podcast, and the Living in Faith Everyday podcast, which is a weekly roundup of all the various Bible study and talks that I'm doing over the period of the preceding week. You'll also find links there to my SoundCloud and my Bandcamp page, where I create the background music and the sound design of these broadcasts. But with that, all I'd like to say is thank you for joining me, and I hope to join with you again very soon.